Yo, this is Abe Cannon from The Abe Cannon Show, and you're listening to the Hoppy and Super Rich Show. Go!
All right, before we get to everything going on with Ray Rice, I want to remind you, if you know a great unsigned artist, risky and super rich, maybe he's a bit super rich and a little risky.
Bob Vicker.
Yeah, Bob.
He's making music, yeah.
We want to hear their music right now. Tell them to submit their music to theedgeonair.com and email it to theedgeonair@gmail.com. And hey, if we like it, we'll play it. Also,
maybe, if it's good enough.
Yeah. Also,
we're the ones that determine that.
Yes. Risky's attitude determines it. All right. MP3s only. No profanity or vulgar content. So you can't talk about popping Molly with your girl in the club. And finally, submission does not guarantee airplay like everything in life. All right. This is ridiculous. This is
if only the camera was on to see that.
This is a disgrace. This is a joke. Now listen. Charles Barkley said, like when we were born in 1993, that athletes are not role models and they should be held to that. You know what I mean?
I agree.
But at the same time, that's when they're sleeping with women, not married. That's when they're drinking. That's when they're doing bad things. But at some point, athletes need to be held to a higher level. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you shouldn't expect them not to smoke weed like Josh Gordon or not to get DUIs because they're idiots. Like, football players are actually less intelligent, so it's expected that they're dumb as hell, even though they have the money to get a cab, so why aren't they?
Right.
But the fact that people are trying to excuse what Ray Rice did as a mistake, you know what? Beating up your girlfriend and knocking her out in an elevator and then dragging out her body, that's a little more than a mistake. This morning, I got up late. That was a mistake.
That's more of what in the world is wrong with you.
That's what I'm saying. This morning, I can't. That was an honest mistake.
Oops,
sorry, Dino.
it was a mistake. I got an F on that test.
Where's your fake apology?
I planned on getting an A, but I ended up getting an F on accident.
Like, those are innocent things. But when you knock her out cold and drag her out of an elevator, there's no defending that. And now it's just getting ridiculous. The fact that you can be suspended for more games for taking Adderall like Richard Sherman, which maybe it helps him focus. Maybe he didn't get them from ADHD doctors, so maybe it's a little sketchy, but give him a slap on the wrist. And for Josh Gordon, who smokes weed, no big deal. It's legal in like 3 states already.
At least he'll be suspended for the season.
Who?
Josh Gordon.
Ray Rice should be suspended for the season. If this was Josh Gordon on the Ravens, this wouldn't be happening because they need these players to help make the NFL money and the Ravens money by going into the playoffs. Mm-hmm. The Browns don't make any money for the NFL.
My worst part about it is that
they get them a lot of publicity because of Johnny Manziel.
Well, yeah, that's true. But my worst part about it is that the Ravens coach, John Harbaugh, says, he's not making a big deal about it at all. He says, Ray's a good guy, and he says, in quotes, he's a good guy, and he made a mistake, and everybody has to move on from it. But it's not a mistake, and that's what everyone is very upset about, including me and pretty much, 95% of the world, except the Ravens organization.
And shame on John Harbaugh, that's his name, right? For not saying anything, for saying he's a good guy. I get that you have to defend him in the locker room. It'd be more respectable, John, if you said something like, what he did is awful, but we hope he can help us win games. But to try and cover it up for your scumbag organization and the town home to the wire is a disgrace. You're proving nothing in life.
Let's not forget.
You're an atrocious role model to anybody who watches football.
Right.
Well, Roger Goodell doesn't care because all he cares is that he makes $44 million a year.
Right.
What does he even do to make $44 million?
Well, you know what he makes $44 million for? For making the NFL uptight and home to wussies with awful rules. That's what he does for $44 million. You're a loser.
Well, let's not forget.
Was Young suspended for the season when he got arrested 3 times in 2 days?
But he's
I think so.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's a thug, and he got arrested again.
Well, and speaking of thugs, Ray Lewis also is on. Or he was on the Baltimore Ravens for 12 years.
You can't get rid of him, Roger.
Well, he won 2 Super Bowls, right?
Yeah. Before Goodell. So, but
didn't Ray Lewis beat up his girlfriend or get into some sort of legal trouble? Yeah,
he allegedly killed somebody. He was found not guilty, but most people think that
was O.J. Simpson guilty or
not
guilty when he killed his wife? Exactly.
When you have money, you're not guilty. That's what the precedent is. And now I'm not saying you don't have to suspend Ray Rice for the whole season because that's unrealistic. But for just 2 games, you can win those first 2 games by passing the ball to Torrey Smith if you're Joe Flacco.
Right.
That's nothing. What are you setting as a precedent? That it's worse when you take Adderall to focus and you smoke weed to chill out and eat Taco Bell? That's worse than beating up your wife cold and dragging her body out of an elevator? Like, this is an awful precedent for anybody who wants to play football. It's implying that you're better than the regular Joe. If some regular Joe did this, he'd be in jail for 4 years. But when you're Ray Rice, who helped the team win the Super Bowl, the first one in 12 years, then it doesn't mean anything. How much of a disgrace is this? This is disgusting, Roger Goodell.
And by
How do you
the way,
look yourself in a mirror? I know you make $44 million a year, and you're married to that girl from Fox News. You have a nice life. I get it. But how do you look yourself in a mirror and say, I let a wife beater go off pretty easy, but I let people who smoke weed not get off that easy? You're a disgrace, dude. You're a joke.
And by the way,
I
agree with you. But by the way, the first 2 games, so those are the games that Ray Rice will be missing. They're against the Bengals and they're against the Steelers, and they're both at home. So
I hope they go down 0-2.
They have a good chance to win those 2 games, though. I mean,
those are
Cincinnati's okay. Steelers are kind of falling off track.
It's not like they're playing the Browns or. What do you mean they're going off track? They almost made the playoffs last year. You can't.
They're just getting old, is what he means.
Yeah, good point. I mean,
they're getting up there in age. They have a lot of overpaid guys. Big Ben wants a new contract.
This is actually a tough division between the Steelers, Bengals, Browns, and Ravens.
Well, we don't know how Johnny Manziel is going to be.
Because all 4 of those teams are like 500 teams.
And
so
people seem to forget that Brian Hoyer was good until he tore his ACL in that game against the whatever team.
It was like week 3
that was
or
the
4
Bills on Thursday night. Yeah,
wasn't it? It was the Bills or Dolphins.
No, I think you're right. I think it was against the Bills.
Because that was the same game when E.J. Manuel went down as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like no big deal that Brian Hoyer's pretty good. Let's all focus on Manziel, but that's another thing for another day. So
yeah, he's probably not going to be very good.
He's not. He's too busy doing lines of coke in Vegas and not focusing. When you see him at training camp, he can't complete a spiral.
Right.
It's a joke.
So this article's from ABC News. It just came out a couple hours ago. Ray Rice apologizes again, says, quote, wife can do no wrong. Baltimore Ravens player Ray Rice publicly apologized to his wife today and said that she can do no wrong, just months after he allegedly struck his then-fiancée and was caught on video dragging her from an Atlantic City elevator. I'm sure most of you have seen that.
Yeah. Here's my other part I love.
Yeah.
It's so funny. These Ravens fans say, well, he was drunk. That doesn't mean anything. So should I get drunk and then go rob a bank? I'm drunk. I don't know what I'm doing. Or when you get a DUI, they don't know what they're doing. They think they're normal. Or should I get drunk and then just go kidnap somebody? I'm drunk.
Well, I think it's also...
I don't know what I'm doing.
It's also sort of, when you're an athlete or when you're famous, you sort of think you're above authority sometimes.
That's what I'm saying. That's
what's
wrong with this.
Think you can do whatever you want, and you just think no consequence is going to happen.
And then they can get away with it because they can buy the best lawyers.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem with this. They can get away with it as long as you have money and as long as you play for a good team like the Ravens, you're going to get away with it. But if you're Titus Young or you're Josh Gordon, you don't get away with it. That's what I hate most about this. Mm-hmm. If they were lenient on all players, then I'd get used to it. But because it's the Ravens and they need Ray Rice to contribute for the NFL to make money and for the Ravens to make money for them to go to the playoffs.
Well, and Ray Rice had an awful year last year, by the way.
Although
I'm not expecting him to have that much of a bounce-back season.
I am.
Well, you also have to throw in the fact that he was playing with a terrible offensive line that was decimated by injuries and terrible play,
and he sucked.
And he was also dealing with nagging injuries the whole year, and the fact that Joe Flacco couldn't make that big pass when they needed him to because he was he didn't have much receiving options. So there's a lot of factors that went into it. Also, you could throw in the fact that maybe Ray Rice is getting on the wrong side of 30.
Yeah.
How old is he?
That's a good point.
He's 29 or 30. I think he's 30 this year.
I think he is 30, yeah.
Yeah, 29 or 30.
Old. You're done, Ray. You're done. You're as competitive as the Rice at A last night. You're a loser.
So, going back to the article, it was the first time the running back answered questions about the February 15th incident, which earned him a 2-game suspension from the NFL. What happened that night is something that should have never happened. Rice, he's actually 27 years old. Rice, 27,
That's
said.
why I didn't think he was 30. I'm like, wow, he's older.
He's currently 27. He called the violent incident his lowest low and expressed concern his 2-year-old daughter with wife Janae Palmer would one day learn about her dad's mistake on Google.
That'll be his worst mistake until he goes and kills someone.
Yeah, I mean, he just said it's his lowest low. And did you have things that were competitive, that were close to being lower than that? Like, how much have you done, Ray? It's obvious when you knock out a woman and drag her unconscious body out of an elevator. I would hope that's your lowest low, you loser.
Well, and here's the thing, too. You're either the type of person that does this or the type of person that doesn't do this.
That's what I'm saying.
So if you're the type of person that does do this, it could happen again. Maybe it won't happen during your NFL career. Maybe it'll happen and then you'll blame it on brain damage from being hit in the NFL. But it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
He's going to do it again, and I don't know how old he'll be. I don't know when it will be, but he's going to do it again because you're either the type of person that does it or the type of person that doesn't do it.
I'm bipolar, and I don't have the meds. I have multiple personality. Enough of the excuses. I don't care if you have a disorder or if you're insane. You know what you're doing. You have the voice in your head that says, I shouldn't be knocking out a woman and dragging her out of an elevator. I know you don't want to hear that, but ESPN says it's domestic abuse. No. He dragged her out of an elevator. You have to say what it is if you want the shock value to go away. You know what I mean? People try to sweep it under the rug and act like it's nothing. He knocked his girlfriend or his wife out.
Yeah, I mean, I could never. I mean, how could you even That's gotta be one hell of a punch, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see what this article. So he goes on to say, it hurts because I can't go out there and play football, but it hurts more because I have to be a father and explain what happened to my daughter.
Football's just a game. Worry about getting your life together. Oh no, I can't go out there and play football. That's how you know this guy has an ego. When that's the first thing he thinks of is, how am I going to play football? He doesn't feel sorry. He's sorry he got caught.
Well, and that's what the Ravens should be concerned about, his football ability, not saying, he made a mistake and blah, blah, Harbaugh said. He should just be saying, it sucks that he got that he put himself into this situation and he'll have to live with his consequence and we just have to move on as a football team. Just say something like that. John Harbaugh didn't have to go out and say everything that he said.
What a buffoon.
Yeah, so it says, Rice declined to say what triggered the incident, saying he just wants to move forward with his family. My actions that night were totally inexcusable, he says. Well, yes, obviously. Rice called his wife an angel and said he let her parents, his teammates, and the entire Baltimore community down.
Of course you did. These are the most obvious lawyer-written up lines ever.
Oh, yeah.
And what role is the dad of that girl going to be like, I'm glad you knocked her out unconscious. And what role are your friends going to pat you on the back?
Yeah, she was annoying anyway.
I mean, this is just lawyers.
Good for you.
This is what I hate about it. We can never have a real moment whenever these athletes get in trouble. They read a script or they memorize what the lawyers tell them to say. He's not sorry. If he punched her and knocked her out unconscious, this isn't the first time he's done it. There's no way you're...
Well, it might be the first time he's done it, but it won't be the last. We know that.
Trust me. It's a never-ending cycle.
Yeah. He also brought up his mother. I know that's not who I am as a man, Rice said. That's not who my mom raised me to be. If anyone knows me, they know I was raised by a single parent, and that was my mother.
That's like saying when someone gets accused of rape or they murder someone, that's just like trying to move on. Like, hey, it's not a part of me. It's in the past. When it happens, it happens. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you can't just erase history and hope you can get a time machine and go in the past. You need to embrace it, you idiots. Don't try to sweep it under the rug, because that's the worst thing. Come week 7, we're going to forget about this. They might be like 5-2. They're going to be in the playoff race. All of Baltimore is going to be happy. That's the worst part about this is no one's going to hold him to some standard. They're just going to move on from it. We always do. Like, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No big deal. Penn State covered up a pedophile. We've moved on. No big deal. Ray Lewis killed somebody. All these athletes that get accused of rape but are found innocent. Winston, Roethlisberger, Kobe. We move on. That's the biggest problem with this is we're just going to move on from this. You know what I mean?
Right.
Do you agree with me?
Yeah.
What do you think, Ryan?
I mean, obviously we'll move on.
Wait, what's up, Brian?
I just said, obviously, everyone's going to move on from it and try to, because that's what happens. But
right, so how do you explain that to the locker room, too? Like, these players, like, you literally let your team down. These players are going to be thinking if they lose one of those games, if he wouldn't have been such an idiot, he would have helped them win.
They'll watch this. They'll go 2-0 or 1-1. because Joe Flacco's going to pass the ball. He's going to have a comeback year.
Well, they're playing the Bengals and the Steelers. I say they'll probably beat the Steelers.
I
They
think
might
they'll
lose to the
Pittsburgh.
Bengals.
They'll beat the Bengals.
No, well, I think it's the other way around, but you never know. Rice, as a 6-year NFL veteran, was arrested following the altercation in which he allegedly struck Palmer. Rice has been accepted into a diversion program, which upon completion could lead to the charges being expunged.
Of course.
Last
Why not?
month, Rice met with NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell after joining the diversion program.
I wonder what that talk's like. They grab 2 bears, crack them open. Thank you for defending me, man. Just 2 games. No problem, Ray. I got you, man. I just love that conversation. You know, it wasn't much to it.
Yeah. Roger Goodell ultimately decided to suspend the running back for 2 games without pay and fine him an additional game check for conduct detrimental to the NFL in violation of the league's
boo-hoo. He
personal
makes $8
conduct
million
policy.
a year.
He'll
He
be
doesn't
fine.
care.
This isn't some factory worker from Cleveland who makes $40,000 a year. He'll be fine. If you think this is actually going to hurt him, or Ray Rice isn't going to sleep at night, or he won't be able to feed his family, then you're wrong. Then you're dumb. He'll be fine. This is all going to be swept under the rug, and we'll just forget about it. Yeah, plenty of people will hate him forever, but we're going to move on. Trust me.
Yeah.
Watch him have the best year ever, and then ESPN tries to make a whole narrative of, he changed his life around. He fought through adversity of knocking his wife out cold. Oh, this is just ridiculous. It's just, I wish athletes would be better role models, because this just teaches our kids that, hey, if you play sports, you're good at something like acting or singing, you can get away with anything. Oh, all right.
Coming up, the Hoppe and Super Rich Show.
What's coming up, Super? I'm Rich. Look at my net worth.
Well, we have a couple baseball stuff that we'll get to probably a little bit.
David Price has been traded to the Tigers, and
Oh
the
my
Cubs
gosh.
are working. The Cubs are working on a trade to send Bonifacio and Russell to the Braves.
For
Wow.
who? I want just a bunch of prospects.
Maybe they could get like a starter like Alex Wood.
It's possible. Alex Wood, a good young arm, good 4th or 5th man. So yeah, that's possible. But yeah, we'll talk about that, and we'll also find some other topics to talk about as well. So yeah, stick around.
All right, call the show, 630-785-2510. That's 630-785-2510. And tweet at us in real time at Hoppe Radio 893.
At Ryan Stuppridge.
At our Risky 16.
We'll be right back on the Hoppe and Super Rich Show with Risky on the EdgeOnAir.com.
The Hoppe and Super Rich Show.
This is the EdgeOnAir.com. ICB Lombard, Chicago's unsigned music station. The EdgeOnAir.com.
This is an official broadcast of Hoppe Radio. For more info, check out HoppeRadio.com and Hoppe'sWorld.com.